What's up everyone? Today we'll be executing a high fade with Kiss Express color enhancement and heavy texture up on top. Don't mind me as I quickly freehand for the sake of time, grabbing a frontal zone section here and point cutting. Using our thinning shears, we're going to continue to remove some weight from the top and kind of just make everything a little bit more pliable. That way the client has the freedom to style his hair any way in which he wants. Okay, all we're doing at this point is making sure that we're following the rule of thumb that the hair recedes in length as it nears the back of the head. So it's going to be longer in the front and shorter in the back. You guys want to take your time when doing this. You want to make sure that you're as even as possible. For the sake of speed, like I said, I'm just going to quickly run through the top. Okay, now we dampen the hair up a bit. Comb it straight forward. Right here I'm just quickly point cutting this frontal zone section of the head. Now we begin the X cutting technique, where we maneuver our scissors in a talking motion from the right side of the head to the left side of the head, and then again 3 times across from the left side of the head to the right side of the head, creating an X pattern when seen from above. You guys are welcome to repeat this process as many times as you need. That way you achieve that desired texture look that you're going for. The more passes you give your client, the more of a choppy texture look you're going to develop. Please make sure that you guys aren't closing the shears completely, or else you'll just snip the whole length off. We want to maneuver them in a talking motion, making sure that we're closing them halfway. That way the smaller hairs will be able to pick up the larger hairs that fall under their own weight, and in the end you'll have more pliability, more movement, and less weight. Now we can add some airflow to the hair using the blow dryer on high heat medium settings, and using our hand here to just kind of scrunch the hair. You want to make sure that you have a good distance away from the scalp. That way you're not burning your customer's skin with the blow dryer. Now we apply a bit of mattifying powder from a European based company called Osis, and what this is going to do is it's pretty much going to give the hair more of an effortless look versus putting something like pomade or a gel on top. So this is only going to reinforce the texture and make it look a little bit more aggressive but still natural. Now in order to begin the fade, I use my number 0 Speedo guide, and this is pretty much the same guard as the Wahl 1.5. So you guys can use either guard of the Wahl 1.5 or the Speedo guard size 0. Now we begin to lay the base of the fade, making sure that we're flicking out as we hit that top part of the parietal ridge area and avoiding any of the long hairs up there. You guys can also use the comb to separate the top from the parietal ridge area. In order to remove any excess oils from the scalp, we're going to use a dry shampoo, and right here we're using a comb to just kind of clear a bit of the residue. I know a lot of barbers might say that this isn't really necessary, but I honestly find that it helps the blade glide across way easier, and it just removes some of that friction that you get from having oily skin or sweaty skin. Now we implement the initial guideline with the lever fully closed and using the blade upside down, or the clipper upside down, making sure that we're not applying too much pressure against the skin because it will bite through. Now I start clearing up about 1 inch wide between the guideline and the bulk. That way we have enough room to fade down later on with the trimmer and then the shaver. Here I begin my second guideline, about 1 inch wide in length. So now we will close the lever halfway and hit halfway in between this guideline in order to blur this line out. So we're using half of the blade, and in certain areas we're using the entire length of the blade. That way we're working as efficient as possible. Here I open the lever just a tad bit more in order to fade a little bit higher. I continue to blend this line out with some lever play. Whatever point I'm trying to blend in within that guideline, the higher it is, the more my lever is going to be open. So now we close the lever completely and we're hitting that final shadow, laying the blade flush completely against the skin and flicking out as we hit the midpoint. I create my third guideline using my 00 speedo guard with the lever halfway closed, and this guard is basically the same as a number 1 wall guard, so no worries if you guys don't have this guard. I make sure that I stretch this guideline real wide, that way I have enough room to fade from top to bottom later on with the half guard. Notice how I work my lever from halfway closed to fully closed, that way I'm able to soften that shadow up as much as I can before I finally get rid of it with the half guard and finally the blade by itself. So I start here with the half guard, lever halfway closed. We're just letting the clipper and the blade do all the work, trying to blend in as much as that shadow up as we can before we finally close that lever up fully and tighten up the blend. Now I fully close that lever. You guys can do as many passes as you feel you need. Obviously, the more passes you do, the more of a blurry fade you're going to develop. In order to get the blurriest blend possible, I suggest using the corners, half of the blade, and working that lever from open to fully closed. Right there I remove that guard and continue to blend with the blade by itself. Using your favorite trimmer, we begin to edge up the side of the fade, making sure that you're being real gentle, applying little pressure on the skin, and following the natural growth pattern of the client's hair. Before I remove the bulk for good, I'm going to make sure that I clean up about an inch or half an inch above that bulk. That way I'm able to guide myself later on once I remove the bulk with the clipper and use a shaver to create that transition, or that perfect transition from skin to stubble to the rest of the hair length. So in other words, I'm being super organized with my guidelines and the exact placements on the head. Using my electric foil shaver here, okay, today we're going to be using semi-permanent kiss colors. This one in particular is K98, which is a black color. I also recommend that you guys get this little stain cleanser, which is from the same company. It's definitely very handy, especially if it's your first time using color, because you will stain the client's skin and this will help you quickly remove it. But if for some reason you don't have that in hand, then you can also use alcohol for an alternative. This is a brush that the girls use to do their makeup. I grabbed this from my sister's room. I don't even think she used it anymore. But you guys can use any other brush or any tool that's going to help you blend in the color. It doesn't matter what you use. Grab a color tray and add 3 to 4 drops of the Kiss Express color solution. Mix this with 1 quick spray of water. Right here I grab an X strip just to make sure that I didn't add too much color and that it's not too splotchy. Okay, so you want to make sure that you wipe down this area with alcohol before you apply this. We apply this directly on the skin, right in front of the edge up, right in front of that line. That way we're able to easily blend it into the fade and doing our best to make it look as natural as possible, not going too heavy on the paint. So we apply, we brush, and we see how it develops. And we go from there. We add more to any areas that are sparse, we add more color, and then we brush, blend the rest of that color into the fade. Before you guys lock this haircut into place with a razor, make sure that you dip that blade into some alcohol. That way the alcohol removes any stains from the skin and you create a nice, clean, symmetrical line. This process will ultimately add a lot more contrast to the fade and the skin around the edge up as well. So this is a finished product, a high fade with Kiss Express color enhancement on the edge up, and aggressive texture up on top.